brothers and sisters.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any new videos. And if you have any questions or topics that you would like to hear me discuss, then please feel free to send them on over to my email address, which will be provided in the description below. Okay, so I received a question that says, why do women always talk about the joys of pregnancy and not the things that are, actually traumatizing to us? And seeing as how I have experienced it, I have gone through it, and I have my own opinions about what pregnancy means to me. So today, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to share with you guys my own personal story. So there is this amazing lady who I consider family. And I remember when I was pregnant, she told me, write down everything that you want God to give your child, every detail. Don't leave anything out. And, pray over it and it will happen. So I did just that. And honestly, I can say that I received way more than I prayed for. And she's just everything that I pictured her to be. It's just an amazing feeling to know that, God is actually listening, and I'm just honestly so blessed to have her. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, I really, really feel like I should have definitely written down how I wanted my pregnancy to go, because honestly, it was probably one of the worst experiences of my life. It's sad to say, but that was my experience, and it doesn't mean that I don't love my daughter. It doesn't mean that I am not happy or blessed to have her. It just means that my experience with bringing her into this world wasn't the best one. And I don't like downplaying anybody, because you hear so many people saying, you should just be happy that you're able to have a child. And yes, but that doesn't make it any less traumatizing. What you went through, it doesn't mean that it's any less important just because you're lucky to be having a child. I think the main thing that helped me get through it, though, is knowing that I was having a girl. I prayed and I was like, God, I should get to choose, because I'm the one who's going through the pain. Lord, please. And when I found out that I was having a girl, it kind of eased my mind a bit. But I honestly remember throughout my whole pregnancy crying every single night, because I was in so much pain and I was just so depressed. And a lot of people talk about postpartum depression, but antepartum depression is real as well. And being someone who experienced both, it is not a fun journey. So I was so blessed, though, because I had so many people who supported me. I had so many people who were there. And so it made me think, like, there are women out there who don't have a good support system. And so I was like, God, thank you so much, because you placed good people around me, and especially my husband, who held down the fort and made sure I was okay and constantly gave me foot rubs and back rubs and cooked for me. If you know, then you know. Cooking for me, that's the way to my heart. So I was so happy, because even though I was going through all of this, I had people who were backing me up, who were standing behind me, ready to help me with this, ready to help me with that. So that helped me to get through what I was dealing with. Antepartum depression, that is depression that you experience during pregnancy. And I didn't know that I was going through this until I did my own research. I found out that 7% of pregnant women actually experience this type of depression. And it could stem from so many things, like the pains that you might be going through, or just worrying constantly whether or not your child is okay. And one of the biggest things for me was wondering if I was going to be able to give birth to an actual baby. Being a first-time mom, I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to die when I'm going to give birth? And so that scared me. So I spent all of this time worrying and crying and wondering. And I was so afraid to tell my doctor, because the first thing that they do is medicate you. So I would say, if you're going through this, then please try to be open, do your research, and find out some of the things that you can do to cope. Okay, so back to my experience. I remember the day that I went to the hospital. I went only because I didn't feel the baby moving as much as she usually does. And ever since morning time, my husband was telling me, let's go to the hospital. And I was like, no, it's fine. Let me just drink some juice. Let me just drink some water and see what happens. And, we'll go from there. By 10 p.m., she still wasn't moving that much. And he was like, okay, let's grab the emergency bag and let's go. So when we get to the hospital, they, bring you back to the room, start doing some testing and stuff. And the whole time I'm laying there, I'm like, they're just gonna send us home. Nothing's gonna happen. We came here for no reason. I'm just having mom brain where I'm worried about all this stuff for no reason. And then the doctor came back in and was like, you have to stay and have the baby. And it wasn't even time for me to have the baby yet. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to have the baby. And all of those thoughts that I was having before about giving birth and like, am I gonna die? They all came floating back. And I was just literally shaking. I started shaking so much. And the nurse was like, it's okay, relax. And I remember when they had to put the IV in, I screamed so bad that the doctor was like, how on earth are you gonna have this baby? And I was like, sir, me and you both are wondering the same thing, okay? So fast forward, come to find out, the reason why I had to stay and get induced is because my blood pressure was 181/102, which means that I had really, really high blood pressure and I was going into hypertension, and they were afraid that I might have a seizure, so they tried to induce me. I spent 2 days in labor because she just didn't want to come out. And I remember that I had this really, really bad headache. I developed preeclampsia. I was just going through it and I was like, God, I just need you to take this baby out so that I can go on about my day. When I made it to 8 centimeters, her heart rate started dropping. So then had to roll me in for an emergency C-section. So after that, I remember that when I woke up, I saw her and the first thing I said was, oh, she's so beautiful. And then I like passed out because I was heavy on medication. And when I woke up again, everybody was there. The next day, I honestly didn't remember who was there because, again, I was so medicated, heavily medicated. And I think the hardest part for me, though, was the healing process. And let me tell you, it is not fun at all. The first time that I had to get off of that bed and start walking, it felt like everything in my stomach was going to fall out. But, again, I had an amazing support system. I had people who were there that helped me. My mother was there every day making food. Husband was going back and forth, making sure everything was okay for when we come back home. So I was honestly, truly blessed to have these people in my life. So now, postpartum depression. When I came home and I had a look in the mirror, I was like, this is not the Lisa that I knew before. And I was just really in a state of depression because I didn't like the changes that my body went through. I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. I was just so down, so depressed. And because I had a C-section, I wasn't able to move around too much. It took me some time to heal. So my baby, she had to be cared for by my mom or my husband or friends who came over to help. So I was never really able to have that moment with her that I wanted to, other than breastfeeding or pumping to give her the milk. That was the only time. And I was just so sad because I felt like, oh my gosh, am I neglecting my baby? And again, every night crying, telling my husband, am I beautiful? And he's like, yes, babe, you're beautiful. And I'm like, you're lying. You have to say that. And it was just one of the most terrible experiences for me. So I was just sitting and I was like, okay, so during the pregnancy, I was going through it. After this baby, I'm going through it too. And I remember opening up to a few of my friends and telling them, you know what, I've been going through this and I haven't been feeling like myself. I haven't been liking what I see in the mirror. I really just feel so disgusted with myself. And they just showered me with words of encouragement. And again, guys, every time I went for those doctor visits, I was so afraid to tell the doctor, oh my gosh, I'm going through depression or I'm going through this, because I did not want to be medicated. I did not want them to think that I was some type of crazy person. So honestly, what I did to get through it was I talked about it. I finally opened up to people other than my husband, and I prayed about it, and I got through it. And maybe the way that I did it might not work for you, but definitely if you are someone who is dealing with postpartum depression, then please be open. Don't hide it. Don't try to deal with it on your own. Seek help and seek counsel. And if you are someone who knows someone who's going through this, then please be patient and try to help to the best of your ability. We're not doctors, we can't prescribe medication, but we can definitely be there, and we can definitely give words of encouragement and just try to help out in any way that you can. The last thing that I will say is that if you are someone who is currently going through pregnancy, or you are someone who has experienced it and it wasn't the amazing experience that you thought it was, then trust me, you are not alone. If you're currently going through it right now, then please try to open up and seek help. One of the things that I can honestly say is that having people that you can talk to really helps. Having people who understand really helps. And don't think that just because you're blessed enough to have a child that your feelings are not valid. Because one of the things that I experienced was a lot of people telling me, well, you should be happy that you're able to have a kid because there are so many women who are unable to have kids. And I'm like, that's sad, and that's their experience, but that does not mean that what I went through wasn't traumatizing. It does not mean that what I went through wasn't something that changed me in a way, because childbearing and childbirth is something that is difficult. It is something that changes you mentally, physically, emotionally, and it does not mean that you are any less. It does not mean that you're inconsiderate. It just means that your story is different. So don't ever feel bad for voicing your opinion, because that is one of the things that scared me the most about talking to people about it, is people just dismissing me because they're like, well, you have a kid, so you should be happy. No, this is something that I went through, and you never know. Other people might be going through it too. So be open. Don't worry about what people have to say, and just be your best self and be the best that you can be. I love you guys, but most importantly, God loves you.